Welcome to Pharmacy View, Technology and Pharmacy Business podcast series, where we provide regular interviews with pharmacists and key industry people within the Australian pharmacy and associated industry. In each podcast, we look to discuss aspects of pharmacy operation and how technology is improving or interacting with each guest's current role or pharmacy-related business. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter, and today's guest is sponsored by Shopfront Solutions, leading the way in digital marketing and communications, providing a cloud-based platform for pharmacies to manage all of their digital messaging and print-based collateral. For more information on the Shopfront Solutions digital platform, simply go to the website at shopfrontsolutions.com.au. I'm talking today with Roger Simpson from the Retail Solution, who we've had the opportunity to chat with previously. Welcome, Roger.
G'day, Scott. Great to be here again.
Likewise. Now, for anyone who doesn't know you or the Retail Solution, just give us a short update.
Sure. So the Retail Solution, we're very much focusing around helping physical retailers to improve their customer service and increase their sales. And how we do that is really focusing on store managers, retail managers, etc., to help them be amazing in-store coaches. And that's a weakness I see across a lot of retail businesses where store managers don't really learn how to coach and get the best out of their team. So we've been doing that just for a few years now, Scott, about 25 years. So, and look, I've had the pleasure of, I've got one client I'm doing some work with very soon, which is be our 21st year working with them. So makes me feel pretty good when that happens.
Yeah, you must be doing something right. And again, for anyone that doesn't know you, we talk about the Retail Solution, but you've been doing and continue to do work in the pharmacy industry with quite a few pharmacies as well, pharmacy businesses as well.
Absolutely. And yeah, so across a whole broad range of different retailers, but pharmacy I've worked with almost probably 25 years as well. And that's certainly with the Terry Whites, the Chemmarts, the Capital Chemists, and Ramsay Healthcare, etc. So lots of different brands. So although not a pharmacist, which anyone will tell by listening to me for about 5 seconds, Scott, I think I can offer a broad perspective of what customers are really looking for and how do we deliver on that.
Sure. So Roger, what's happening in retail at the moment? It's been a more than an interesting year, the COVID year 2020, and what's going on?
Yeah, look, interesting is a interesting word, Scott. So what we saw last year, of course, with all the store closures, and particularly here in Melbourne where we are, we were the worst affected, and obviously that drove a lot of people online, and so online sales have grown dramatically, which to no one's surprise, I would think. And that trend has certainly continued. So they talk about, it's sort of fast forwarded what was going to happen in 5 years, probably until about 6 to 12 months. So there's a lot of people obviously shopping online and will continue to shop online. So that will never change. But what's interesting, Scott, is when we reopened, there was quite a rush back to stores, because I think underneath it all, we're actually, as Australians, we love our shopping experience. So even some of the blokes out there. So stores have been seeing customers come back, but certainly what I would suggest is that store visits are actually down. And then, of course, we had a bit of a resurgence, of course, because as I said, people are going back into stores. So
we got let out, Roger. We had to go and spend some of our money.
Yes, exactly, and that has been an interesting point, Scott, because obviously with no overseas travel, people are going, well, I've got all this money I normally spend. What will I spend it on? So obviously, the Bunnings of this world, JB Hi-Fi's, etc., Harvey Normans have had a terrific year last year as people invested in their personal buying, but also on their house. So, and that'll continue as we go forward a little bit as well until travel starts to open back up again. But we're seeing that now in Australia, of course, is we've got domestic travel, so less money now being spent on retail on ourselves, because we can now travel. And we've also, like, JobKeeper's now been turned off, and job seeker cuts, the rent relief measures that were put in place as well have stopped. So vaccines are starting to roll out, although very slowly. But let's not get into that. And so we're now seeing domestic travel and a focus away from purely retail spend. So I expect to see this retail sales just sort of pulling back a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think you're aware of this, and my eldest son's a builder here in Melbourne, and a couple of things have happened. Is that the government investment into the building industry
Yep.
has really stimulated the industry, but
Mm.
because of the COVID shutdowns in Australia and across the globe, building supplies are now in short supply,
Amazing.
and
Yeah.
and because of that, prices have gone up. So yes, the government's given a stimulus package to get it going, but everything's costing more at the moment because you just cannot get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even having, even with that shortage, it's still actually hard. Most builders have still got plenty of work, and certainly my son's now booked out till probably late next year with his specialty building group,
Amazing.
because this is what people are now wanting to spend money on.
Yes.
Not going overseas, as you mentioned, health and fitness,
Yep.
and home and lifestyle. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, and also, I mean, we still don't really know because we saw what happened in Perth very recently with that, with the lockdowns, and obviously what's happening in India, which is absolutely tragic, and
yeah,
and people coming back, and so we still don't know whether we're going to have lockdown, Scott. So it's all up in the air. So that, this year will be, I think, an interesting year for retail,
yeah,
and what we're seeing as well is that. Like, particularly in Melbourne, in the city, and in Sydney as well, it's still, there's been a lot of devastation around. A lot of retailers have had to close. Lots of cafes that were relying on business time and lunchtime trade through business people. That just disappeared last year, of course, and it's slowly coming back, but
yeah,
a lot haven't survived. So there's still that, but there's certainly some positives. We've got interest rates are low, and as we know, house prices are up, so that's a good feeling. So yeah, so there's a little bit of both. But what was interesting, Scott, I did a poll on LinkedIn very recently.
I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, and I wanted to find out what would bring people back to a physical store. And so I sort of gave, it was pretty much three options. There was, would you go in to a retail store because you get personalized experience, for that personalized experience that you can't get online? Or would you go in because you want to touch and feel the products before you buy them? Or would you go in because you want to pick up the products right now? And the overall result, very clearly, at around 52, 53%, was to touch and feel. And interesting, this poll must have absolutely hit a high note because or really resonated, because I had over 38,000 views on that poll, Scott, which is,
Wow.
on average, I'd normally get about 5,000. So it just absolutely went ballistic. And
Okay.
I've done polls before, and I might get maybe like 100 votes if I'd done well. This
Yep.
one got close to 500. So, as I said, it really resonated. And what that tells me is that this is the challenge. And I'll talk a little bit about the future of retail very soon. But the
Yeah.
challenge about trying to purchase online, particularly around clothing, etc., footwear, it's really challenging because
Yes.
we don't know what the product is, unless we've bought it before and we're very sure. So, and the challenge, of course, is we get the product at home, gets delivered to us, of course, and then we open the box and we go, oh, that's not really what I wanted, or that doesn't feel right. We're
Yeah.
going to return it and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I just think, and again, like pharmacy is a little bit different, of course, as well. So, but for retailers, it's about, how do I get my customers to come in knowing that they want to touch and feel? How do I make that really easy for them to do? And then I drop in that personalized experience as well, which did poll pretty highly, about 24% or whatever. Is that if I can add that personalized experience in as well, then bang, I've got a fantastic offer that will entice customers to buy more while they're there, which is what we know every retail store is all about,
Yes.
is
Yep.
having customers to buy more for the right reasons. And I've done a lot of work in with all retailers, and particularly in pharmacy, around how do you increase the basket size, but in the right way, for the customer. But that's an opportunity that you can only really do face to face. Yeah, so I think huge opportunity out there, Scott.
Yeah. So look, on that, there's two little quick scenarios that I can refer to.
Yep.
I thought I'd nailed the whole, I don't have an extensive wardrobe these days, but I thought I'd nailed this particular pair of hiking pants that I wear,
Yep.
fairly regularly. And I figured no problems now that I've got them. They're the right size, they're the right fit, even for my COVID body these days. And I ordered another pair online, and guess what? It's a different size. It's a different cut. So,
Crazy.
I've then gone back to the retailer, taken them back and said, look, they're not going to fit. Can I swap them from a different size? So whereas I thought I'd nailed this whole, here's a pair of shoes, here's the size that I am, or here's the pair of pants, here's the size I am. So in that perspective, there could be an opportunity for pharmacy here maybe, but because certainly with the fashion industry, it's not working. And I know the second one is my daughter-in-law. who is one of these online shoppers that orders a whole lot of tops or a particular article of clothing, tries them all on, picks the 2 or 3, and then it's really easy to send it back. So you're doing this on and get your credit back. So that's really how online is both hindering and helping, isn't it?
Yes, look, absolutely, and because we could see that the retailers that were set up for online prior to the the start of last year were doing really well and did really well last year because this is the challenge I talk about, Scott, is that there's so much competition now, and this applies to every retailer, and particularly in pharmacy, because we know that pharmacy is a very competitive industry. That shoppers have so much choice, and we've got to remove the friction, and we've got to make it easy for customers. Anytime there's a little blip where we go, it's just too hard, then it's so easy. If we're online, we'll just click away and go somewhere else. If we go into a store and it's just there's a blip as well, you know what? I'm not going to come back here again. So the heat is on retailers, and they've got to, and in pharmacy as well, you've got to have an online presence, and that has to be absolutely seamless. So as a customer, I want to be able to shop how I want to shop. Retailer, don't tell me how I should shop. I want to shop if I'm on a tablet, if I'm on my phone, and I might be searching or I might be doing whatever. I might want to just order it now and I'll have it delivered, or want to click and collect, or I want to, the BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. That's becoming very popular, which is pretty much click and collect. But every retailer has to make sure that it's absolutely seamless. So the pickup has to be easy. If I've got to try and find a car park and I've got to walk for 500 meters or whatever, well, why would I bother doing that? Whereas if I can, dedicated car space, etc., all those sorts of things. So how do we adopt technology to make it work for us and work for the customer?
Yeah,
really important.
Absolutely. And I have had occasion in the last 2 or 3 weeks to go back into Melbourne CBD. Haven't been in there for over 12 months. Let me tell you, the bustling lunchtime streets are still not there.
Yeah, I know.
However, the queues at the coffee shops are still there. So obviously something's going right. And you're right, quite a few empty shops.
Absolutely.
That were there 12 months ago from that perspective. Roger, the other thing, and I don't know whether you've caught up with the news yet, I just saw a release in the last 24 hours that Solomon Lew, Premier Investments, has poached the CEO of JB
Purchased,
Hi-Fi.
probably.
Purchased.
Yeah,
So,
I just saw that. Just saw that, Scott.
So again, from a retail perspective, that would suggest that his JB Hi-Fi has been very successful for some time.
Yeah.
And Premier Investments, Solomon Lew is probably one of the longest and most highly regarded retailers in the country after Jerry Harvey, or with Jerry Harvey. And the reality is that he's pinched someone to do something with the Premier Group.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just actually saw it this morning, Scott. So, and I've done some work over the last sort of 10 years with the Just Group, so I do know them quite well. And Mark McGuinness did an amazing job when he came in there. And I think I can't remember how long he's been there now. It might be close to probably 10 years or 8 years or something, I think. Yeah. And so he's pulled the pin, and I saw the search was on, and then I just saw that breaking news, and so obviously the CEO of JB has done an amazing job, that's for sure. So and that's the Premier Investments of because they're very much in the retail clothing. They've got obviously Smiggle, which has been an absolutely gangbuster brand for them and done really, really well. But they've got all the other brands that some have struggled a bit. So, but they've. And of course, they're at war at the moment with a couple of shopping centres around rent. So lots of interesting things happening for Premier Investments.
Yeah. So I guess the reason I raise that is that really here's someone that says, well, retail's not dead. I've actually just got to rethink the way I do it, and I need to bring in a different skill set. And you would suggest that JB Hi-Fi is very information and technology and online based. So obviously my analysis of that is that brings someone in who's actually got that level of expertise into, as you've said, the fashion industry. So what does the future of retail look like in your mind?
I think the future of retail is really exciting, Scott, very exciting. Daunting as well, because there's a huge amount premised on technology. And if we thought that there's a lot of technology now, let's just wait a few years and see what happens. But it's going to be amazing, because just what we've talked about, the challenges about the alluding to my poll about trying things on, that has to be a nut that has to be cracked by with technology, and it's already here. Like we've got sort of augmented reality where you wear the mask and you can actually like the old Star Wars game, etc., that you can fight off
Yeah.
the invaders.
Yeah.
But again, that technology is here already, where you can actually put on the 3D glasses type of thing, and you can look at products. You can almost touch and feel them as well. So that will just become more and more and more familiar. And when online cracks that, because they will, then that's going to take a whole lot of pain, just like you said about, because we'll actually send in our body size, and you can already do that now. You'll take measurements, or you just run your phone over and it'll take the exact measurements for you. That'll be stored online. Scott orders his pair of hiking shorts. That
Yeah.
that particular style's now been dropped or whatever. But we have this style
Yeah,
here, and we know
that's because they
so.
don't want me in shorts anymore, Roger. That's why.
Well, that could be the case, Scott, but I won't comment about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that it'll remove all that error,
Yeah.
all those errors. So that's going to happen. And it's interesting that the next point I'm going to talk about is drone deliveries. Now,
Yeah.
there was a pilot done in Canberra, and it's now probably 2 or 3 years ago. So this is not current. And they got approved by CASA, as I understand, to run this trial. And pharmacy was certainly involved in that. But drones were delivering, obviously pharmacy products, which I think is a perfect example of how do you get to places out in the outback with pharmaceuticals. This would be a perfect way of doing it. But they're delivering pizzas, delivering coffee,
Yeah.
delivering golf gear. So that has to become more commonplace. So, but I guess the challenge is, again, the flexibility, because we can probably get products within half an hour then, and we all love getting things straight away now. That's the
Yeah.
society we now live in. But we also, what's going to happen is we're going to get inundated by 10,000 drones flying over. So
So the buzzing that I'm hearing in my ears these days is just
it's not
prelude to
tinnitus.
what's coming. Yeah. It's coming. Yeah. And look, you're probably aware, and certainly many of our listeners might be aware, that there's a drone delivery service in trial at the moment with Lucy Walker and her team at Goondiwindi, Terry White Chemmart in southern Queensland, northern New South Wales. So I've spoken to Lucy on a couple of accounts, and we'll catch up with her at APP, but I hope to have an episode with her and how that trial's gone in a couple of months' time. So.
Yep. Look, has to happen, because you're the old delivery boy at 15 after school or whatever on his bike. It's a little bit hard to ride 50 k's these days. They probably couldn't even ride 500 meters, Scott, without their parents following them in the car. So
that's true. That's brought back some memories, Roger.
Absolutely.
So,
there's also what is going to impact every single retailer is obviously artificial intelligence and big data. Man, that's just going to be an absolute game changer, because obviously, and it's happening now, of course, is that anyone who's on a like a loyalty card, and many of us are, and you got your Woolies card, of course, and every time you go in there, you scan because you want to get your bonus points, etc. But they know exactly what products I'm buying.
Okay.
So what's interesting as well, Scott, is every week they serve me up offers of products that I would normally purchase.
Yeah.
And I quite like that, Scott, because they're serving me offers that are on discount. So, and being a tight ass New Zealander, I always like to take advantage of discounts. But obviously, they know that it's going to pull me into to go back to Woolies as opposed to going to Ritchie's or Coles or whatever. And I'm also going to buy more things, because I'm not just going to go in there and buy, which is sometimes what I do, but this is the whole thing about big data, and they're going to be able to cut and splice this so they know exactly, and they're going to serve up offers of what I currently buy, but also they will also be able to serve up offers that I haven't even thought about. And this is where the add-on sales are going. So it's all about, the personalized experiences are going to be the way of the future, because, and that, it's interesting what they always talk about, back to basics, and things go around in circles. You think back 50 years, Scott, you go to we didn't have the choice we had by any stretch of the imagination now.
No.
But your shopkeeper knew who you were. They knew your family. They knew what you're doing on your holiday, etc. Now it's very bland. You go in there and someone sort of feigns a bit of interest and then says, "Oh, can I help you today?" And that's about it. Whereas what's going to happen is that through facial recognition, and this technology is already here as well, they're
Yes.
going to
Yep.
recognize who you are, and that will on my tablet I'll get a note Scott Carpenter's now approaching almost, and
Yep.
it'll have Scott's previous purchases. It might have Scott's been online and looked at this, etc.
Yep.
So I can easily go, oh, g'day Scott, how you going? Hey, how'd you go with your hiking shorts you ordered online?
Yep.
They got returned, didn't they? Was there an issue there? And again, oh God, this person knows exactly what I'm looking for. So this is what technology is going to do for us, and retailers have got to get on top of and get amongst the technology that's coming up. So, because if not, you're going to be well left behind.
Yeah, and look, certainly if we relate that back to pharmacy, a couple of the big pharmacy brands and groups have been using the loyalty customer data for some time.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
you signed up for notifications, you'll get the specials that relate to
Yep.
your history and your
Yep.
purchases. So I guess there's an advantage there if you're part of one of the bigger groups. You're already kind of seeing some of that happening anyway. And if you're on your own, then it might be something that you need to look into because again, it's not. Yeah, okay, yes, it's possibly a little harder or more challenging to do it for a one-off business, but it's not impossible
No.
by any means. By
No,
any
and
means.
they'll, like anything with technology, it's expensive to start off with, but it becomes cheaper and cheaper as they roll out. So
Yeah.
I saw an interesting report from McKinsey, who are a global
Yep.
consultancy company, and they talked about the future of retail, and they talked about with some futurists, and they talk about a store designed just for you, and then they're talking about in 2030, shopping will feel incredibly personalized. It'll feel like the sales associates in that store know me as well as a close friend or maybe as well as a personal stylist. And that's
Wow.
all from data.
Yep.
And when you go into a store, you're in a particular area that you will walk. It sounds a bit creepy as well because Big Brother's watching, but you're
Yeah.
going to have music that you like will actually be playing. There might be various, depending on where you are, but scents might actually that you associate with are in the air, etc. You walk past a mannequin and the digital, so they're actually changing to represent what you would be looking at purchasing. So it's just
Based on
it's
your information, your history or style history.
absolutely, and this is the tip of the iceberg, Scott. Look, it's going to go in areas we don't even know. Another area that we talked about just before we came on was, of course, is 3D printing,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting concept because that's going to become so much easier. So and, you think about a sports store or whatever or anything where it's a physical product. I'll actually walk in there and I'll say, like, I'm after such and such, and they'll actually print it for me while I wait, or I'll come
Yeah.
back or whatever. So, and what that has an impact on pharmacy, I'm sure, Scott.
Absolutely. Look, I've posed the question to a few pharmacists, and is it feasible that at some stage in the future that common prescription drugs could be 3D printed in the pharmacy? But having said that, another really good example I've got, there's a purchase I'm looking at the moment that needs a little bit of modification, a reasonably major purchase, and part of that is that someone else has identified this same scenario as myself,
Yeah,
and they've started 3D printing a solution to it. So it might not be a mass required product.
yeah,
It might be something that only 10, 20 or 30 or 40 people need, but someone that's got a 3D printing business has come to the same conclusion as me. And so I'm going to now end up buying these particular parts off this 3D printer because no one else
yeah,
has solved this solution, and it's local, it's here in Australia, but it could be anywhere
yeah.
given logistics these days, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
and just as you said that, Scott, it just leads me into again the things that COVID have taught us is that and like in any crisis, there's always lessons that we need to learn. One is that we are too reliant on getting products from overseas. So if you think about 3D printing is a perfect example, is and that'll become cheap, fast, and efficient and good quality as well.
Yeah,
And if it's someone local, Scott, then we are again buying local, which has to benefit the community. So
correct. Yeah,
yeah, and look, I don't see that as fanciful as well, Scott. I think that's absolutely on the card. So and
yeah.
probably not too far away, I would think.
No, I don't think so. So, Roger, if I'm pharmacist, business owner, listening to us today, chatting away, what should we do right now? What could we do?
Yeah, so I guess there's to me there's probably four things that every retailer needs to focus on, and particularly this certainly applies to pharmacy as well. And number one is I already mentioned about investing in technology. It's just critical that you get amongst what's happening. And again, that I love that you're going to have your conversation with the lady about drone deliveries. But
Yep.
again, the big data. If you've got a loyalty card, how well is that being used to identify customer trends, all those sorts of things. So yeah, so technology, and also around that, as I said, around the displays, etc.
Yep.
How do you invest in technology? How do like for signage as well, Scott? It's ridiculous with ticketing that we're printing tickets and pulling them down and printing tickets and putting them
Yeah.
down. So,
Yeah.
and I know that you've got some answers on that as well. So technology would be my number one thing is
Yep.
you have to get across that. Number two is you absolutely have to invest in your people, because and I like what you said about the I think Richard Murray's the current CEO of
Yes.
JB Hi-Fi,
Yep. Yep.
is that physical retail is far from dead. In fact, there's a huge opportunity here for the strong ones to really become even stronger, and that is. And physical retail is about people, Scott, as you know.
Yep. Yep.
So you've got to double down. You've got to recruit the right people. You've got to train them well, induct them well, train them, and also you've got to coach them as well. And that's that's my soapbox that I'll always be on until I have no more voice, Scott.
Was
So
yeah. Well,
because you
well,
because
that's
you got to create. As I said, is that people still want to come in, and when
yeah.
they come in, how do we create that amazing experience that my competitors not doing?
Not doing, yeah, and look, what was coming to mind as you were saying that was maybe not as long as my career history, Roger, but I've seen multiple times business owners that have moved from one business to another to
Yeah,
change with the time. So one thing is you can transform your existing business, but I've seen multiple cases where they've sold off that business and actually invested in something else, and now even more successful in a new arena. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that 15,000 pharmacists should all of a sudden decide to become something different, but certainly there could be someone listening here today that says, well, okay, hey, yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. Potentially the market's coming to an end because technology and customer demands are changing it. And now actually is it time to look at a different market altogether? There's just, as I said, there's multiple instances out there
yeah,
where that's happened.
yeah. Absolutely. And number three, Scott, is that stores have to look great.
Yep.
I've got to be, and again, I talked before about taking away the pain points for shoppers. So we've got to have our store looking great, easy to navigate around, and back to technology as well, Scott. Is we've got to make sure that a customer can find out if the stock's available
Yes.
easily.
Easily. Yeah.
Because to me, in 2021, there should be no excuse for someone ringing a store and go, "Do you have such and such?" I'm not sure if we do. On a computer, it's saying no stock or whatever, but I'm not really sure. That it just can't happen, because it takes effort now to go into a physical store where it's easy to
Yeah.
shop online. And if I'm going to go into a store and I've checked and they've told me it's in store, I get there, it's not there, then I'm going to be pretty frustrated. So having your store looking great is number three, and number four is we've talked a little bit about community and buy local, and I think that's this is where, I mean, pharmacy is called community pharmacy, Scott.
Yes.
So even more so now is they've got to connect with their community, and this is where I think retailers can make a huge difference and really stand out by having local products. And again, some of that applies to pharmacy, some of it doesn't, but again, make at a community hub. How am I showing up in my community? What am I doing? And but pharmacy in particular is that they can run events, and a number of pharmacies do this really well. But be known for the pharmacy that does X.
Yeah.
And I'll do a little shout out to Samantha at Charnwood, Capital Chemist Charnwood in Canberra.
Yep.
And she, like wound care was her thing that she wanted to be known for. And she's got people driving from all over Canberra to come and see her. So that's one example. And so this is what community pharmacy is all about. What can we be known for? How do we become that hub that people will actually? And again, if you've got the facilities, you could do health talks there. You
Yep.
could, again, depending on your size, but again, you might have meetings, whatever. But just trying to think outside the box of
Yep.
just I'm open to serve customers. Well, I think we need to be more than that now.
Yeah.
So those would be the four things I would suggest that everyone needs to focus on.
Yeah, and look, if I refer back to the Gundawindi scenario, again, with another client of mine, I know Lucy and the team at Gundawindi actually have monthly online healthcare training.
Fantastic.
So not only can you have it in-store, in
Yes,
pharmacy
yes.
for your locals, but they're actually then recording that or actually going live to the remote locations and people as well from that perspective.
Absolutely.
So,
And
well,
it's got that's that's a perfect example, because you're absolutely
Yeah,
right about being the the focal point around health, because that's what community pharmacy is all about. Is
absolutely.
how do I help my community be healthier and stay healthier longer? So
Mm,
that's a perfect example around, like running Zoom meetings or whatever, and it could be a topic around, how to, ward off the common cold and flu this cold and flu season.
yeah,
And our special guest is, pharmacist Bill or whatever it is, or pharmacist
yep,
Mary, and
yep,
we're doing a 15 minutes or whatever. And again, and so having a database where you can communicate with your customers as well. So, because that's what technology can be used for, Scott, is how do we become informative and helpful,
yep.
so that when they need something, we're the first brand they think of.
Yeah, that was it. Pharmacies is still rated as is the most trusted healthcare destination in the community, bar none, and utilise that as the service. So, Roger, mate, that's been great again to chat today. I really appreciated your time. No doubt we will chat again at some stage in the near future, but continue to enjoy the world that is retail, and I'll continue to enjoy the world that is pharmacy. Anyways, thanks for your time, Roger. Thank you for listening today. Pharmacy View is a technology-focused podcast provided by Melbourne-based business Arian Technologies and Shopfront Solutions. Over the podcast series, our guests include pharmacists, retail managers, wholesalers, suppliers, and industry technology partners. If you would like further information on our podcast series or to participate in one of our episodes, feel free to send me a message or touch base through the Pharmacy View website, pharmacyview.com.au.